Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Bingaman. I'm with Circulation Verification Counselor, CVC, and we're here today to review your newly released audit report and readership study data for 2026. Now, throughout today's training, I'll be making references to national averages and other items comparing you to the over 1,800 publications in the CVC audit database, but specifically talking about city and regional magazines. We have over 350 city and regional magazines in our audit system, and so it really gives us an opportunity to compare you to print or media in general, and also compare you to your peer group, other city and regional magazines. Let's begin today by talking a little bit about Circulation Verification Council. Each year, we look at your distribution, your circulation, the number of copies you print. We talk to hundreds of your readers each year, determining who they are and how they interact with your magazine. Now, this is the important part that came out of your audit report, your local life total gross contacts. CVC estimates that there's 77,885 individuals that look at the number of copies that go into your print publication. This is based on your reader per copy score of 3.7 readers per copy. The national average for print is 1.75 readers per copy. City and regional magazines and business publications typically have the highest reader per copy of any publication in any given market. There's a variety of reasons for that. For city and regional magazines, it tends to be their long shelf life. People tend to keep them in their homes and offices longer. Waiting rooms play into it, hotel rooms play into it. So there's a lot of opportunities because of that long shelf life, the glossy, nice look of city and regional magazines that give them the opportunity to have a much higher reader per copy score. But in addition to that, you added an additional 41,000 individuals on your digital contacts, all your digital offerings, whether it be through your website or your social media or all the other digital efforts that you do. So there's almost 119,000 individuals who are interacting with your media on a monthly basis. So total gross contacts has become a far more important score than just net circulation because it gives your advertisers a much better idea of the expanded reach that's within your marketplace. Now, the important thing for city and regional magazines is their demographics. Who is the local life reader and how do they interact with those magazines? We know through the history of auditing your publication for years now that you have an extremely affluent, age-appropriate readership. Matter of fact, your average reader age of 52.8 is the height of consumer spending. And so we know they're affluent with an average reader household income of over $280,000. We know who those readers are. We know they're affluent, but how do they interact with you? Well, their residency status, of course. Over 80% of them are full-time residents. Part-time residents account for about 10%. Then you also have seasonal visitors and visitors who interact with the magazine. Then we get into net worth because income is important, but ultimately net worth determines their spending value. Over 30% of your readers have a net worth of over $2.5 million. Over 20% have a net worth of $1 to $2.5 million. So you have not only an extremely affluent from an income perspective, you have an extremely affluent readership from also a net worth perspective. Primary home value, we see here that over 40% fall into the 500,000 to a million, but also we have a big number, almost 30% in the 1 million to 2.5 million, and then down in the single digits for over $2.5 million. So that really gives us a much better picture of the wealth of your readers, their home values, their net worth, and their incomes, all very, very high. Who are the people who read Local Life? It's the most affluent households in the community. Now, we see this again with economic conditions. Just over 50% of your readers say economic conditions do not affect their spending. As a matter of fact, when we look at the much less planned spending or slightly less spending, it accounts for less than 20%. Over 80% of your readers do not have their spending influenced by economic conditions. Once again, pointing to the wealth of your readers and their ability to cope with economic conditions. Now, reader engagement with a city and regional magazine is always one of our most important measurements. How do they interact with the media that you offer? Well, when they look at an issue, almost 50% read all of it. That means they're flipping from page to page. They're interacting with the editorial, they're interacting with the ads, looking at the ads. But then we have almost 40% reading most of it. That's where they may skip a page or two that doesn't interest them. Primarily, that's on the editorial side. But we can see here that your readers are very, very engaged with the print issues. Then we get into how much time they typically spend. And this is important because when you're talking about an extremely affluent audience like you offer, getting them to spend 60 minutes, and over a third of your readers are spending over 60 minutes with Local Life. This is important because getting an affluent audience to give you that much of their time it shows the value that your magazine has to those readers. And if we look here, over 40% are spending 30 to 59 minutes. That shows really what they're looking at as far as time. But when over 40% of your readers say they're reading most of the publication or almost every page, then we couple that with the time measurement. It shows that they're really spending an awful lot of their efforts on Local Life. And finally, purchase intent. Purchase intent is important because your readers perceive you not only as a news and information vehicle, they perceive you as a purchase vehicle, finding the things that they want to spend their money on. How likely are they to purchase from a local life advertiser? When we look at this very likely number, anytime you can get a third of your readers to engage that heavily in the very likely column, and you're between 30 and 40% there. Anytime you can get that, that's extraordinary. But then look at the moderately number. It's over 40%. So when we start to look at this, you're falling well into the 70s, close to 80% of your readers who are likely to purchase from a Local Life advertiser. Then we have to remember this question because it's very important. You know, it used to be 20, 30 years ago, people would buy a print ad and then they'd wait for people to walk into their store or call their business. Well, the engagement that readers have with advertisers now, because we've become so digitally oriented, is entirely different. And Local Life took the time to ask them how they respond to their print ads. This is important because, you know, visiting a restaurant, almost 90%. If you're a restaurant in the Hilton Head area and you're not advertising in Local Life, what an opportunity you're missing, because anytime you can get over a third of your readers engaging in an activity, much less 3 times that amount, you've got a slam dunk here. But when we start looking at how else they engage, this is important. If you're an advertiser in Local Life, almost 70% of Local Life readers went to an advertiser's website because of the print ad that they saw in Local Life. That is a huge number of people on a regular basis who are visiting advertisers' websites. And don't give Google as much credit as you have in the past, because almost 40% of your readers have Google searched a business because of the print ad that they saw in Local Life. This is important because looking at how readers engage, looking how readers take that print ad and do something about it, really shows an advertiser how much of an impact that print advertisement has, particularly when it's coupled with good digital offerings. Now, what media influences your purchases? This is an interesting one because over 70% reported that Local Life influences their local purchase decisions. But look at what's second, Friends, at over 60%. If we go to what's in third place, slightly below 50%, is reviews. The impact that Local Life has on your community exceeds Friends and reviews, the 2 second highest. So this is important because it really shows the impact of what a regular advertisement in Local Life can do for your particular business. Now, what do you do after discovering a business in Local Life? Once again, almost 80% are visiting that advertiser's website. Almost 50% are visiting the business in person. Over 30% are Googling the business to learn more about them. Once again, showing that expanded reach that Local Life has. What makes you take action on an ad? Select the top 3. Visuals in an ad, of course, is very important. The offer and testimonials are very important. This is a key component for advertisers to keep in mind because coupling those 3 actions within your ads can get you a better response to an advertisement placed in any print publication. Now, key takeaways. We know that local life readers are very upscale homeowners. They're highly engaged with the magazine. They have very high purchase intent because they have the high net worth, they have the high incomes to be able to purchase the products and services that they see advertised. And they're not likely impacted by economic shifts. It insulates advertisers within your market who are advertising in local life because of the affluence of the readers, because of how they engage with the magazine. Thank you very much for taking the time today to review Local Life magazine and the research that we've done over the past 60 days. And keep in mind, all of this data is current. All of it was performed in 2026, and it tells us what's going on in the next 12 months in your market. Thank you.